A tense meeting on the proposed Waterfront transmission route. An uphill battle to repair Thunder Bay's potholes. And the final report on the 2020 Nova Scotia mass shooting. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with the latest from the ongoing dispute over the proposed Waterfront transmission line project.
Hydro One has committed to reviewing an alternate route for the high voltage power line, but that did little to calm emotions at Wednesday's meeting of the neighbors on the line. Kurt Black joins us in studio with the details. Kurt?
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, tensions were certainly high out in Kaministiquia last night, with the main area of contention being the tactics used by Hydro One real estate representatives, which some area residents have described as bordering on harassment.
I want to hear when you're going to reroute the line. That's the only time I want to get a phone call. How do you sleep at night?
Frustration continues to grow amongst those who stand to be impacted by the preferred route for the Waterfront transmission line project. And this week's discovery that Hydro One's real estate representatives aren't technically licensed real estate agents has only added fuel to the fire.
Unlicensed, unregistered, uncertified real estate representatives telling people information about their property and their land that they're not certified to give.
These land agents are giving real estate information to these landowners stating they can move wells, that this is the assessment of their property. They're not certified to give that type of information. And then they're asking people to sign paperwork based upon misinformation.
Hydro One's Sunny Karen Akron was once again on hand for Wednesday's meeting and made it clear that maintaining positive relationships with the community is a priority and that the utility will be looking into the tactics used by their representatives.
We thank the people here in Kaministiquia for the feedback that we have received about specific interactions. We take that very seriously. We certainly will be investigating further. We want to try and make sure that we are continuously improving, and so we will strive to endeavour to do better.
The alternative route proposed by local Brian Marsh will be reviewed by Hydro One over the next 2 weeks for its potential as a solution based off the criteria used for the original route. But from Hamer's perspective, the utility's actions to this point have left her less than convinced.
For us, that's not a clear indication that they are committed to an alternate route, which brings it back to what part of their criteria is taking in over 285 homes. And I would ask, what is an acceptable amount of loss?
Kurt Black, TBT News.
It will likely be at least another month before construction of the new Waterfront Art Gallery finally gets underway. That's according to the gallery's executive director. Preliminary work is happening on the site, but Sharon Godwin says there are several things that have to happen before construction can begin in earnest. Namely, City Council has to approve a bylaw allowing it to go ahead. That won't happen until at least April 24th. The art gallery and the city then need to sign a lease agreement for the land before the building permit can be issued.
Job seekers from Thunder Bay and across the region were at the Valhalla today for a chance to connect with a variety of potential careers.
It was the second annual Opportunities Northwest Job Fair organized by Dougal Media, featuring employers from many sectors. Vasilios Bellos reports.
It's the perfect way to connect job seekers with potential employers. The second annual Opportunities Northwest Job Fair kicked off Thursday morning at the Valhalla Hotel with an even better turnout this time around. An estimated 1,500 people crowded the event to talk with representatives from more than 80 employers in the region, with some even getting hired on the spot. Event consultant Nancy Mullaney spoke about the benefits this event brings that attendees would not get virtually or through a phone call.
I think the face-to-face, having the opportunity to actually come in and talk to someone is so very important. It's a lot better than doing it online and just setting in. When you have that opportunity to make an impression on a potential employer, I think that counts for everything.
Online, I don't like that personally. And I think there's a lot of people that want to do a one-on-one. Companies, I believe, they get a better sense of who you are, what you're all about.
The booths set up featured employers from a wide variety of sectors, including mining, emergency services, entertainment, and much more. The Ontario Native Women's Association was in attendance, with HR coordinator Tanya Towner explaining the benefits of meeting so many potential employees during a single event.
It's been amazing to network and meet everybody coming through the doors, and they're learning about who we are if they didn't know ahead of time, and just getting to experience us and experience everybody that's here and interact with all the other local companies.
Organizers say the plan is to continue the job fair annually as long as the need to connect job seekers to employers is felt in the region. Vasilios Bellos, TVT News.
A 17-year-old male has been arrested after allegedly stabbing two other teens last night on Winnipeg Avenue. The incident sent an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say it was the accused who called 911 to report the altercation, and he turned himself into police without incident. Officers, though, were told that he was also a victim in the assault. He appeared in bail court today and was released with conditions. Thunder Bay Police have charged the driver of a pickup truck following a collision with a school bus this morning. It happened on Government Road around 8:15 a.m. The bus was stopped to pick up children when it was rear-ended. There were 14 kids on board at the time. Fortunately, none of them were hurt. The truck sustained major damage and the female driver suffered minor injuries. City police say she's been charged with careless driving.
With the arrival of spring, local drivers have seen plenty of potholes open up on city roads over the last couple of weeks.
Roads crews are extra busy trying to fill them in a timely manner, but as Jessica Clement reports, it's an uphill battle.
We're definitely the time of year right now. Potholes are starting to form, and it has been for the last couple of weeks.
While this year's winter was milder than usual, motorists will still be seeing potholes develop for the next while, as the warmer day temperatures mixed with freezing night temperatures causes damage to Thunder Bay's roads. However, road crews and the Python 5000 have been out daily to fill any potholes they see or those reported to the city infrastructure phone line. Roads Division Manager Ian Spoljerich insists that this year's pothole season has actually been fairly average, and he admits they aren't able to do permanent fixes just yet.
Also, this time of year, we only have access to cold mix asphalt, which is more or less temporary, not really a long-term solution until the hot mix plants open, usually around May long weekend. Right now, depending on the resources we have 4 to 6 crews out per day, along with the Python.
We spoke to some city drivers to get their opinions on this year's pothole season.
Too bad. It's too bad. I can't even explain it.
I think they're brutal. Everywhere you go, you're clunking in a big hole somewhere.
Terrible this year. They're everywhere. They're big, they're ugly. I'm going to do damage to this new vehicle.
We do have a lot of people calling in, more or less helping us identify where some issues are so we can send crews to go and address those.
Spoljerich says there are no plans at this point for the city to purchase a second Python 5000 machine, though he admits it would be nice to have another one at their disposal. And Spoljerich has some advice for people driving around the city this spring.
Just to remind motorists to, drive to the road conditions, and when you are coming up to a pothole crew, give them lots of space to operate, just so everyone can get home safely.
Jessica Clement, TVT News.
Ontario hopes to grow its number of healthcare workers by expanding the number of medical school spots for students in the province.
That a lot of students are being forced to leave the province for medical school. You hear it, my son or daughter's in Ireland, or they're down in the Caribbean at medical school because they can't find a residency spots right here in Ontario. Meanwhile, students from other countries are learning here, but then they return home after that. And I find that unacceptable. That's why we're expanding the number of undergraduate and graduate medical school spots and putting qualified Ontario students at the front of the line.
Premier Doug Ford and Health Minister Sylvia Jones highlighted a $33 million budget promise while speaking at Hamilton's McMaster University this morning. The plan will add 100 undergraduate medical school seats and another 154 postgrad seats beginning in 2024. Both are meant to prioritize Ontario residents.
Thunder Bay OPP are investigating a major copper wire theft in Shunya. It happened last week at the new truck inspection station currently under construction along Highway 1117. Police were called to the site on March 21st to investigate the theft. OPP say unknown persons broke into a sea-can storage container on the property and stole 12 large spools of copper wire, valued at around $30,000. The Forensic Identification Unit attended the scene and collected evidence, and the investigation is still ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to contact the OPP. The new 5-lane inspection station and transport rest stop are being built by the MTO at a cost of around $30 million. The project is expected to be completed sometime in late summer.
The city councillor for Nebing wants administration to look into a potential trail network in his ward along Mountain Road near Nor'Westerview School. He hopes it can provide a safer and more enjoyable outdoor experience for neighborhood residents. Mountain Road doesn't currently have any sidewalks, and many people, including school kids, have to settle with using a narrow bike lane. Councillor Greg Johnson is bringing the resolution forward on Monday night, stressing that many in the growing neighborhood want a more convenient way to get around. Johnson believes the lack of trails or sidewalks is also a significant safety concern.
You've got school children trying to get to school and back home again. Dog lovers, our retirees, people that like to use their bikes. They're really struggling to do so safely. There is no sidewalk off of Mountain Road. The shoulders are quite narrow and often very sloped as well.
If council approves the request for a report on Monday, it would include estimated costs that may be included in the 2024 budget.
Beer lovers and foodies can rejoice. The Brew Hoff Festival will be back this summer for just the second time in the last 4 years. The rights to the event have been acquired by the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce, and it's coming back to the Marina Park this July. Brew Hoff showcases a variety of craft beers, cider tastings, unique culinary offerings, and live music playing in festival grounds. The event last ran at full capacity in 2019. It was canceled in 2020 due to the pandemic, and a scaled-back version took place in 2021 before taking another hiatus in 2022. Chamber President Charla Robinson says they're prepared to handle a full-scale capacity of 4,000 people over the 2-day event.
Well, just really excited to be back at the Marina. It's been a number of years since it was held at the Marina. There was an event in 2021, but of course with COVID restrictions, the management at that time had to go with a much smaller event. So we're thrilled to be back to the full opportunity with all of the things, all of the food and the flavors and the beers to taste, and just excited to bring everyone together for a great couple of nights on the waterfront.
The 19 Plus event will take place on July 14th and 15th from 4 to 9 p.m. each day. Early bird tickets will be made available to the public starting in mid-April.
Well, turning to weather now, Fiona, a little warmer than it was yesterday, and there was some sunshine, particularly early.
As promised, sunny skies, partly sunny skies, and a high of 2 Celsius. That's with winds starting off fairly light, about 14 kilometers per hour, but during the afternoon, it started to pick up, and at times we had gusts up to 42 kilometers per hour. But still, on the plus side, and that's after an overnight low of -13 and wind chills of -20 in the overnight hours. If we head to the west, we've got 2 Celsius in Atikokan, Upsala, Fort Francis. Clear skies for most of the day. As we head north into Red Lake, they're currently sitting on the freezing mark. They had kind of a mixed bag today. They had partly sunny skies at times and others, brief periods of flurries. So right now with the freezing mark, they've got wind chills hovering around -4. So a little below normal, but really not too far off. As we head eastward, we're back at 1 in Sioux Lookout, back to the freezing mark in Armstrong, back to 1 again in Greenstone under cloudy skies. They did start out with some sunshine, but it's been getting increasingly cloudy since about 10 o'clock this morning. Marathon just below the freezing mark, and Sault Ste. Marie back on the plus side at 1. They had sunny skies for about the first half to 2/3 of the day. It's just been in the last 2 to 3 hours that clouds have started to roll in. Now, here in the city of Thunder Bay tonight, we are looking at a milder night of sleeping, a low of -7 and wind chills hovering around -14 under partly cloudy skies. Now, if you remember yesterday, I did suggest that there could be snow in the overnight hours. Well, it looks like this particular system is just going to miss us. As you can see, it's just hovering along the lake shore. We've got areas of snow to the west, and as you head further east, it's more of a freezing rain situation, and Thunder Bay looks like it's just going to miss it, just ever so slightly. So cross your fingers if you don't want to see any extra of the white stuff, at least not tonight, but there is another chance of it as we head into the weekend. I'll have more details later on in the news hour.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. Well, the Mass Casualty Commission has released its long-awaited report into the 2020 mass shooting in Nova Scotia. It paints an unfavorable picture of the RCMP's response to the tragedy. We'll have all the details as your Thursday News Hour continues.
There's no question there need to be changes, and there will be, but we will take the time to get those right.
Families of the 22 Nova Scotians murdered in Canada's worst mass shooting in 2020 are reacting to the final report into the incident.
It was released today. It offers a critical review of the response and also provides recommendations. Todd Battis brings us the details.
is available on our website.
There are 3,000 pages of findings and recommendations documenting the confusion and chaos over the 13 hours a gunman was loose in central Nova Scotia. The obstacles faced by officers and barriers put in front of families of the 22 victims.
Among our recommendations, we are calling for major changes to RCMP oversight, processes, and culture.
The inquiry commissioners say RCMP officers didn't know where to go, couldn't communicate with each other, and didn't properly warn the public, saying the RCMP had not prepared for how to best notify community members and execute a large-scale evacuation of citizens from a hot zone while an active threat was in progress. It took more than 12 hours to tell the public the shooter was driving a mock RCMP cruiser. The police, the report says, failed to properly inform and support survivors and victims' families.
Nothing will bring my brother back or any of the other people that we lost in this horrible ordeal. But, you know, we have to take and move things forward.
When it came to the gunman, the commission concludes there were warning signs, but nothing was done about them. In perhaps the most damning entry, the commission finds, quote, more than 2 years after the event, RCMP leadership has done very little to evaluate its critical response to the deadliest shooting in Canada's history, end quote.
There's no question there need to be changes, and there will be, but we will take the time to get those right.
Among the many recommendations, the commission says the federal government should prohibit semi-automatic handguns, semi-automatic rifles, and shotguns with magazines of more than 5 rounds. Create a national hub for mass casualty responses. For the National Police Force, it urges the RCMP to adopt a policy of admitting mistakes and publicize important information immediately.
It's a massive report that could take days, even weeks, to pour through. And acting on the recommendations in it, that could take even longer. Todd Battis, CTV News, Halifax.
The Catholic Church has finally given in to years of pressure and is revoking the so-called doctrine of discovery. It was used centuries ago to give the Church's blessing to explore what was known as the New World, promoting colonialism and the exploitation of Indigenous people, primarily in North and South America. A statement from the Vatican says the 15th century doctrine didn't reflect the equal dignity and rights of Indigenous peoples. It claims the doctrine was also used at the time by European powers for political purposes to justify immoral acts. The Vatican is asking Indigenous peoples for forgiveness. Here in Canada, the head of the Indigenous Reconciliation Group says the Pope's visit to our country last year was likely a big factor in today's announcement.
I do actually think that the Pope has been choosing to do his own learning journey. He spent quite a while on the lands of what we now call Canada, hearing from survivors of residential schools, which were completely enabled by the doctrine of discovery. And I think it took him some days and weeks to come to that point of admitting it was a genocide. This is a difficult learning journey. When one has been told through the traditions of centuries that, quote, we're doing the right thing, it takes a while to come around to the fact that, no, actually, this was not a good thing. There was nothing good about it.
She goes on to say not everyone in the Vatican and Catholic Church will support the move to revoke the doctrine, but it may be the closest thing to an apology as Indigenous communities will get.
Well, this as the health of Pope Francis is improving after he was admitted to hospital yesterday for a respiratory infection. Here's NBC's Keir Simmons with the latest.
Hey there, how about this for a modern Pope? Pope Francis's Twitter account sending out a message even while he is on the 10th floor of the hospital behind me there. That's the floor that you can see above my head where the blinds are pulled down. Pope Francis tweeting this morning, "I'm touched by the many messages received in these hours, and I express my gratitude for the closeness and the prayer," because so many people were praying for him overnight. Of course, he's 86 years old, suffering from a respiratory infection. That is challenging for someone of his age. But then today we have this very positive news from the Vatican saying that he rested well overnight, that he's improving, that this morning he was able to have breakfast, read the newspapers, do some work, and even before lunch head to the private chapel. He actually has a private chapel there in the hospital for prayers. So for many of the 1.4 billion Catholics around the world and folks of other faiths, because of course Pope Francis has reached out to many other faiths during his papacy, this is their prayers answered. Now he is still in the hospital. We don't know whether he will be able to make it for Palm Sunday. Next week, of course, is Holy Week for Catholics, the most important week of the year. Easter Sunday just 10 days away. So something to smile about for anyone who respects or loves Pope Francis, but still a little bit to worry about. He is 86. He does have a number of health challenges. Keir Simmons, NBC News, Rome.
9 U.S. soldiers have been killed in Kentucky in a fatal crash of 2 Army helicopters last night during a training exercise. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has the details.
The Army has confirmed 9 service members were killed last night in a crash involving 2 HH-60 Black Hawk helicopters in Trigg County, Kentucky. It happened about 40 minutes from Fort Campbell, and this involved 2 101st Airborne Division Air Assault helicopters. In a press conference, Brigadier General John Lubas, Deputy Commander of the 101st Airborne Division, confirmed 2 Black Hawk helicopters were flying together during a training mission, which is a common occurrence as helicopters are almost always paired. He said crew members were using night vision goggles. Officials did not confirm the identities or any details about those service members, as the Army is currently notifying their family members. Now, Kentucky State Police got the call just before 10 p.m. last night about those helicopters crashing. That is when the troopers discovered wreckage in a field. There are no reports of damage to homes, but residents within that debris field were asked to leave. The command has said they are focused on caring for service members and their families. The U.S. military and Kentucky State Police are leading the investigation. Jacqueline Lee, ABC News, Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
In Minnesota, a train carrying ethanol derailed and caught fire overnight, prompting a local evacuation. The train jumped the tracks in the town of Raymond, roughly 160 kilometers west of Minneapolis. Officials say 14 cars were carrying hazardous materials, including ethanol. Homes within a 1-kilometer radius have been evacuated. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg saying this.
There's an evacuation about 1 mile in each direction from the site. This is happening in a community, a small community about 100 miles west of Minneapolis. Been in touch with the governor. We have FRA personnel on the ground. EPA is headed there as well, given the hazardous material situation. The most important thing for anyone in the affected area to know is that you've got to pay close attention to any instructions coming from first responders regarding the evacuation or anything else that local officials are telling you. That is for your safety.
It turns out living with a pet early in life may help your health. A new study has found a positive link between child food allergies from birth and having a pet or cat dog in the home. The study, published by the PLOS One journal, looked at data from over 65,000 children from Japan. It found children who were exposed to cats or dogs in early infancy were at least 13 to 16% less likely to develop allergies compared to children in pet-free homes. Experts say pet exposure may strengthen an infant's gut microbe, which impacts the immune system.
Turning to financial news, it was a positive day for Canada's main stock index. The TSX jumped 103 points to 19,940. In New York, the Dow climbed 141 points to 32,859, and the Nasdaq added 87 points. It's now at 12,013. The Canadian dollar is 23/100ths higher at 73.89 cents US. Gold gained $13, rising to $1,997 an ounce, and oil ticked up $1.40 to $74.37 a barrel.